What is going on, guys? So today, right, as you guys can see, currently not at home like I mentioned previously, but today I want to be talking about TURO and if it's actually worth it to use TURO. No, it's not. TURO is, I would say, for making money on the side, it's not bad. But if you want to turn it into a full business, do not do it, right? If you guys remember, it took me about 4 months in order to turn this into a 100K plus business, and since then it's just been going downhill. Now, why is it going downhill? Is it because the cars have changed? Is it because the market's changed or anything like that? No, it's not. It's purely because of TURO itself. So here's the thing. TURO, they don't care about their hosts, which is kind of funny due to the sense that without hosts, they wouldn't make any money themselves. So now, if you have 1 to 2 cars on TURO, sure, go for it. It's a good thing for a side hustle, right? Very little hassle. Now, if you're trying to scale this, right, I ended up doing 3 states, wanted to expand to 2 more, and actually I canceled those plans due to this. So currently, right, throughout the past couple of weeks, one person ended up crashing the Tesla we had in California. Took TURO a decently long time to get back. Then the other thing is they're like, we'll cover up to $10,000 in insurance for it. The damage on the car was $24,000. They're like, the rest is gonna have to come from your personal or out of pocket. And I'm like, what? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So that's a pain. So then the other thing is basically another person ended up totaling the Mustang in Texas. We had a snowstorm about a week ago. Ended up completely totaling the car, right? And there were still trips booked in advance for like mid-March, which is about a month and a half out. Here's the thing. TURO didn't do anything, so I ended up snoozing the car. I ended up basically having to cancel all the trips. Now, some trips were literally up to like 20 days plus in advance. TURO still charged me a $25 cancellation fee, yet the car was totaled from a previous renter, right? And there were about basically the total came up to right around $200 on the spot for the canceled fee. And I'm just like, how is this on me? Like, there was literally nothing I could have done. It's not my fault he didn't drive. That's annoying because $200 at the end of the day is $200 that shouldn't have been taken away. And then obviously every time you try to reach out to them, it doesn't matter. They're slow. Actually, they're fast at responding, but yet they don't care, right? So this one person complained about one of the cars I have, the Jaguar F-Type, saying it needs new tires. I'm like, all right, literally new tires were put on 2 months ago. I'm not about to put new tires on this car after them being driven maybe 1,000 to 1,500 or 2,000 miles. Then they're like, we would take your word for it, but we can't, we need proof that you get new tires on there. I'm like, I'm not freaking putting new tires on there. That's like $1,000 it's going to cost me when I just did that 2 months ago. That is one of the worst business models to possibly have. So I'm like, screw you, no. And then obviously they're keeping it unlisted and I can't relist it. And I'm like, this is absolutely freaking ridiculous. And then the next thing was, so I had a Range Rover, the older one, a 2012. It's been unlisted now for about, I would say, 2 months. And I was planning on selling it in March anyways. And I didn't really want to put new tires on. And I'm like, you know what? There's still 2 months left until I'm planning on selling it. The new tires are going to help sell it anyways. Whatever. Fuck it. Ended up, tires costing me right under $900. It was like $840, $820. Right, so I basically sent TURO the photos from all 4 tires individually, as well as side angles, sent them the license plate, sent them the VIN and everything. Then I sent them basically the cost of it, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna need basically the invoice number with the VIN on it. I'm like, okay, I don't have that. They didn't give it to me. I just kind of paid it, and they put new tires on there. Can you relist it? They're like, no, we can't. We're gonna need that. And I'm like, what? Why are they making it so difficult? They do understand that without hosts they would make no money, correct? And then I ended up actually renting out a car because I booked my parents a Christmas present trip to Vermont. And what ended up happening basically was that I ended up renting it. I used my dad's license to rent it, right? I wasn't going. But apparently what ended up happening is, even though I used his license, I needed to also add him as an additional driver. And I'm like, but it was his license. And they still charged me the full amount. The entire thing cost me $800. But basically I got $250 back, and they kept $600 of it. And I'm like, this is so they're taking money from guest side, they're taking money from host side, and it's a complete nightmare. And at this point, I'm just going to scrap the entire thing. I'm going to be keeping basically 2 cars on there that I don't drive because it makes no sense for me to get rid of them right now anyways. But all the other stuff, I'm getting rid of it. And as a side hustle, I think it's good if you have 1, maximum 2 cars on there. If you try to expand it and you can't do it personally yourself, I would not recommend doing it. It is one of the worst business models you can do. The hassle is insane. See, and then here's the thing. The amount of guests, literally one person just canceled it was about a $500 trip for my Tesla Model 3 up in Utah. He ended up canceling. His trip starts basically tomorrow at 11 a.m., right? So it's currently 1 p.m. here in Austria, which means it's about 6 a.m., 5 a.m. there. So his trip starts basically in 30 hours. He canceled it. No penalties were against him yet. But that entire week, somebody could have previously booked it, because he's booked this trip about like a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago. Yet the entire time, he just canceled last minute. And this has happened so often, and it is so annoying. And he literally just said he canceled it. He's like, I wasn't sure about the EV charging up in Deer Valley. I'm like, there is EV charging. And he's like, okay, good to know. I'm like, would you like to rebook it or keep it canceled? He's like, no, I'll just keep it canceled. I'm like, why book it in the first place, right? It's just mind-boggling. I don't know if I don't have the capacity to deal with people. I don't know. But I know I'm an introvert and that people aren't my greatest thing. I get that. But it's just like the month and a half that someone else could have booked that trip and not canceled on me, compared to him basically just being a dickhead about it. It's incredible, right? It's absolutely incredible. And of course, I make no money. Basically, that entire week, is someone else going to book it? Probably not. So that's basically $500 missed on earnings right there again. So again, if you're trying to make this a full-scale business, right? If this was my one main business source right here, and you were to basically finance every single car, you had the monthly payments, and you use this as your main source of income, you would be so screwed. I'm very lucky and blessed to have basically my stock trading and everything else I do. Without that, I would literally be right now straight up facing probably bankruptcy or like default on my payments at some point, just because of how poor this business model that TURO has made is, and how unwilling they're using to actually help their customers and their hosts and everything like that. So that is just my viewpoint. I've talked to several of my friends that did it, and they basically told me the same thing. They're like, yeah, dude, I used to have 6 cars on there, and I scaled it down to 1. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense at this point. Is having a full-grown scale business on there is absolutely not worth it in any sense. So please stay away from TURO. It is my biggest warning I could have for you guys. If you, again, do 1 to 2 cars maximum. Don't do any cars above that, unless you have a super scaled like business model where you can kind of everything, right? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a like, comment, and sub, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another video. Peace out, guys.